everyone. Welcome to another episode of the XDOG Lives that we are hosting on a weekly basis. And today we have special guest Sergeant Mark Tappan, and him and his amazing dog Mattis won season 4 of America's Top Dog.
Episode 4.
Oh, episode 4. Yeah, episode 4. Yeah, because there's only one season, so how could you win 4 seasons, right? Yeah. So let's talk about this as far as like, I have some questions I need to ask you that I've got from some of our audiences and some of our clients and stuff like that. So one of the questions that we received was, how long have you owned Mattis? How did you end up getting Mattis? And what got you into dogs?
Great questions. Well, we'll start with what got me into dogs. It was something that I grew up, my dad field trained labs. So I was always around well-trained athletic dogs. And so I just kind of thought that's what dogs were. And then when I got into the police force, I saw just how fascinating the work that they did was. And I was really enamored by it. But the thing that really set me like over the edge and made me want to do canine is I saw how people are drawn to dogs and how they're interested in dogs. And it creates this bridge between the community and police that if we take advantage of, it's fantastic. And so I really wanted, I was actually on the SWAT team at the time, and we go and do demos and you'd see everyone just gravitate to the canine guys. And I'm like, wow, if we can take advantage of that, it's going to help our perception in the community a whole lot. So that was one of the things. The other thing is just the challenge, because there is nothing in the police world like handling a working dog, because you basically change professions into a dog trainer, and 24/7 you're committed to making that dog the best dog he could possibly be. So I love the challenge of it. So it's really those two things that kind of got me into it.
Yeah. So, one thing that I've noticed, just being in the dog business is that there's a large melting pot. Doesn't matter what religion, what type of politics you're in, whatever your sexual preference is, it does not matter. There's so many people from all different ages and walks of life who love dogs. So that, I mean, it seems like that would be a good segue to introduce people and build that trust amongst the community with the occupation that you're in.
Yeah, and I think if we get deep into like the sociological parameters of what's going on in the United States and everything else, I think that's what we really need to get to, is realize that we have a lot in common, that we're all people and we're trying to do the best that we can. And so having that bridge to be able to talk to people and something that, wow, they have that in common with me. And obviously, if you have a dog and you're taking care of it, you have that you see a compassion in other people. And so I think it's just fantastic. Like you said, it creates that bridge.
Yeah. It's just so interesting, man. Cause it's almost seems like, I don't want to just say the news or just in general, but it's almost like people are getting conditioned to choose sides, to like different things, or they think one person represents a whole thing. Like there's bad people. Doesn't matter what race you are. There's good cops. There's bad cops. There's good politicians. There's bad politicians. And but it seems like all dogs are good, right? In most cases, right? Yeah,
that's right.
So let's talk about episode 4, right?
Yeah.
Season 1, America's Top Dog. How did you even get involved in that?
It was actually from my Instagram platform. I didn't put in an application. Someone actually recommended me for the show.
Wow.
And they called me up and said, is this something that you'd be interested in doing? And I said, absolutely. It sounds great, because it kind of extends the whole purpose that I have 3 purposes in our canine unit is be excellent in training, be excellent in deployments, and be excellent in community relations. And so it fit into the parameters of what we're trying to do. And so I'm like, absolutely. And then they kind of vet you. You go through some like Skype interviews with the casting agency just to make sure you're decent and that your dog has the qualifications to actually compete. And so we went through that, and that's how they ended up at, I think they had over 800 applicants.
Wow.
That went out. Yeah. And they ended up selecting us, one of 55 teams that competed for the first season.
Now, as far as like when it came to the training and what your expectation was when it comes to competing on the show, was everything similar, or did you find certain aspects of the show more challenging than other?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was, I kind of went into it like cynical too. Like it's a first time they're trying this out. How good is the course going to be? They actually sent me they sent some mock-ups ahead of time. So you kind of had an idea, but it was drawn out by hand and kind of explained, but you didn't really have a great picture. When I showed up, I was really impressed with the course that they had put together. But I knew with my dog, like I know one of his weaknesses is water. And so I didn't have a lot of time. They're playing with each other over there. I didn't have a lot of time, but I had to start working water with him to make sure that he would get into it. Otherwise, our hopes would be dashed pretty quickly. So we spent a lot of time in the pool. So
Mattis, let's talk about how you ended up with Mattis. Let's get the history and the story behind him and just your guys' connection. And, you know, I'm sure it's like, I mean, you love him unconditionally. He loves you unconditionally. You guys are each other's life force in a way. So let's talk about how you got him.
He's my second working dog. I had been through a trainer school, Cobra Canine, great guide. And he taught me a lot about dog selection. And when I actually went in, the trainer, Jeff Franklin, who owns Cobra Canine, had probably a 50-pound female Mal that was named Abby, and she was amazing. And so I was sold, my next dog is going to be a Mal. I'm going to get this little bitty pocket rocket. I'm a small guy. I'm only 5'6". And I'm like, a small dog would be great because I had a bigger, like an 80-pound Shepherd before. And I'm like, it'd be nice to have something that's a little bit tinier. Not great logic, by the way. Like a 50-pound Mal is probably equivalent to like a 70, 80-pound German Shepherd as far as the work on your shoulders and everything. But I started testing dogs, and Mattis was the last one to get out of the kennel. Man, he 97 pounds. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's huge. I don't know if I want this dog. And then I started testing him, and he was ridiculous. His hunt drive was ridiculous. His prey, his perseverance, like the way that he'd go after. But we put the ball under like these crates, and he ended up flipping over the crates and getting to the ball. I'm like, this dog's amazing. Then I put on the bite suit, and he bit me. And I've caught hundreds of dogs. He's the hardest biting dog I've ever caught in my life. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then his control, like his level-headedness that he has. He like had all these qualities. I'm like, I can't pass up this dog. So I ended up selecting him. His name at the time was Cayman. My son's name is Caden, so it was a little bit too close. So I ended up changing his name to Mattis after General James Mad Dog Mattis, the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah. And here we are. We've been together for 5 years now.
So what made you want to become a police officer, and how long have you served the community?
I've always had like a strong sense of justice. I don't like to see people not treated fairly. I don't like people getting picked on. And so I always had that kind of core inside of me. And I actually went into the Marine Corps out of college, and with the intention of going into law enforcement when I got out. I think I was Marine Corps was great, taught me a lot of things that I needed to, but at the same time, I think I was a little immature coming out of the Marine Corps. And so actually I went into ministry, which kind of helped grow me and get me to the point where I think it was a nice combination of Marine Corps and ministry that got me into police work to add kind of the maturity that I lacked, but I had the other drive, self-responsibility, discipline, things that the Marine Corps provided. So it was mostly that was just, I wanted to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves.
Well, first, thank you for your service. Appreciate that as well, man. That's interesting that, you got into ministry. Do you feel like that kind of helps you in front of the camera? Because you have this, you have a great presence in front of the camera, especially on your social media and stuff like that.
Oh, I appreciate it. I guess, yeah, I'm used to being in front of large crowds, so not a big deal. I guess that does help.
So what happens next? You win season 4, you and Mattis win season 4. Do you guys get invited back, or what's the next step on that?
That's what we're waiting on, is the finale's coming up on March 18th. And they've announced 2 teams that are competing in the finale, but they haven't announced the whole lineup. And so we're kind of waiting to see. It's already been shot, so I know the answer to it. Yeah. But we're waiting to see who's going to be on the finale and for to win the entire season. I got episode 4 in the bag, which was great. And now we're waiting to see if I'm on the finale. So that's what's next. And hopefully there'll be a season 2 and they'll bring back people from season 1. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we got to get behind that and push that even harder.
I
definitely,
appreciate it.
take our machine. Because I love the show. I love the aspect of the show and everything. I'm hoping that there'll be like a champions versus champions type finale and just see who's the best of the best. That'd be really cool.
That's March 18th.
March 18th. And
That's
where can people watch that? That's going to be on A&E, right?
A&E, 9 p.m. Yep.
We're going to have to have a watch party. Yeah, we're going to have a watch party for sure.
Yeah, we're having one. You guys should have one too. That'd be cool.
Yeah, Amanda Caldron's going to be coming in, and we're going to bring her on the podcast, I believe, in April, right? Is it April? This month. Oh, this month, actually. So
cool.
I know she won with one of the episodes, I believe, with one of her dogs as well. So
Team Minion.
Yeah.
She's got that 35-pound shorty bull. She's awesome.
Yeah.
I've trained with her before. I love Amanda and Jesse and the whole group.
You know what's really crazy is that Shorty Bulls, I remember when they first launched. I mean, it was over a decade ago, and it was really strange because you had this dog that almost simulated like a French bulldog, but the workability was crazy, and I was like, wow, I was really impressed because most dogs like that are small with short muzzles like that, they just don't have that workability.
Right. Yeah. She showed me a video. I think it was of Minion one time. It was the first time I had seen a Shorty Bull in action. And all you see is like these milk cartons and, jugs and stuff. And then out of nowhere, this dog like comes up like Jaws and nails a dude in the crotch. I was like, that's amazing. I love it.
Crotch bite. So what got you into actual dog training in general? Like what was, why'd you choose to, start training dogs and everything?
Well, so it kind of goes back to when I first got into canine in the police world. Was I came from, Marine Corps, infantry, and then I was SWAT when I was first on the department, and got into canine. And we were training to just the minimum standards. Like we were training to certification levels, and I was kind of seeing our tactics suck. We weren't really pushing the envelope. Our training sessions would be like 4 hours, if that. Some guys would show up, some guys wouldn't show up, and it really bugged me because I'm really competitive. I like to be the best that I can possibly be, and so I'm wondering, is this just police canine? Is this how it is in the world? And so I started like seeking out training and seeing stuff, and realizing that no, there's some good stuff that's out there. We're just not really striving for it. We're striving for the bottom rung. And so I ended up writing this memo to our chain of command saying, we suck, we need to get better. And to their credit, they said, okay, we'll do it. And so they kind of handed the reins over to me, and we started training to a higher level. I went to a trainer school, and picked up as much as I could. And then I remember just trying to soak in as much training from as many places as I possibly could. Like Amanda's a great example. There's kind of this persona, and it's not all across the police world, but the civilian world doesn't have anything to offer us because they don't understand police work. And to me, it's the civilian world that's been doing it for decades and decades and decades, where I'm the head trainer in Alpharetta PD, and I've been doing it for 7 years. But you got like Amanda, who's been doing it for 20 years. I'm arrogant and I am stupid if I don't try to pick the brain of people who have been in the industry and know what's going on. So I try to bring as many people as I possibly can in to help us get better. So that's kind of what got me into it, was realizing our standards were really low.
Yeah. And that's good, man, that you have an open mindset. We always talk about, everybody wants to be the leader, but the real secret is to remain the student. We just did a podcast on that, where you're always constantly trying to learn and improve. And it's good that you guys are both training together and picking each other's brain, and ironic how you both won your episodes. I guess it's a coincidence, huh?
Yeah. She's amazing. I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to work with her or seen a lot of her videos and stuff, but I remember the first time I worked with Amanda, I had never met her before. She was like, "Oh, I'll catch your dog," and I'm like, "Madison," because she's about 4'11", I think.
Yeah.
She's tiny. Madison's the same size as her easily, and I'm like, this dog is gonna destroy you, right? And I don't know anything about her. We're doing long line extractions, which means you send the dog in, he grabs a hold, and then you pull the bad guy out, right? It's tactically, it's safe. You're getting an unknown danger room. The dog's helping you out, going into the danger, pulling the bad guy out. Then you can take control of the suspect. And so we do this. Mattis goes in. She starts throwing a fit, like just yelling, screaming, cussing. I'm like, I wonder if this is real or or is like she really in pain? So I drag her out, and I don't want her to get hurt. So I kind of do the static, which I never do. I do the static. All right, stop fighting my dog, and I'm gonna call my dog off. We like to train like we fight, which is okay. My dog's got a hold of him. You take control of him while the dog is still applying amount of force. But she keeps fighting. She grabs a water bottle, throws it in my face, spits on me. I'm like, she's amazing. Like, she is top level. And so we ended up like a sweeper and take her to the ground while Madison's still on her. And from that point on, I'm like, she knows what she's doing. Like, she's legit.
Yeah, I mean, you want to try to give your dog a real life scenario as much as possible. So, um,
Yep.
yeah, I'm sure. Like, speaking about being on duty, what are some of the most? I mean, I don't know if I'm able to ask this, but what are some of the most memorable moments that you've had, like real life experiences with Mattis?
Well, there's the one that like most people know, and you can go look up where he won the Purple Heart, which is a pretty cool story. He fell off a 30-foot retaining wall basically, and we ended up apprehending two guys, but then he had a lacerated liver. That's a pretty cool one. But there's one other really that I really like, and it's because it saved the bad guy's life. And what it was we were, it was a traffic stop, and this guy had bailed on foot, and there was actually another dog like tracking the guy, and had been tracking him for like an hour, and I was just on perimeter. But one of the cops that was close to us got in a foot chase and ran right by where we were on the perimeter. And so we ended up going perpendicular to this guy, Mattis and I had a backup, and my backup actually was a guy that he had just gotten back on the road because he had been shot 8 times, right? So that's great officer. He's on SWAT. He's fantastic. Back 100%. But remember, in his mind, routine traffic stop, somebody had jumped out on him and shot him 8 times. So he's my backup. I have Mattis, and we're running perpendicular to this guy. And I don't have enough to just send my dog to apprehend him, because all he's done is fled from a traffic stop. That's all that we knew at the time. But when we tell him, we cut him off and he doesn't see us coming, and so we're about 50 yards in front of him, and he looks and sees us, and we say, let me see your hands. And when we do that, he takes a deep breath, sighs, blades his body, and reaches into his waistband. Now, I come out of my holster. My buddy, who'd been shot 8 times, he's taken the slack out of his rifle, and I send the dog at that time, because we believe if someone blades their body, takes a deep breath, reaches into their waistband, we think he's going for a gun. Mattis is there in an instant, nails the guy. The guy comes out, and it's a black cell phone that he had in his hand. And it was one of those that, had my dog not been there, it's very likely that guy could have been shot. And the people that were actually in the area, there's construction workers and everything else that were around the area, they said, we can't believe you didn't shoot that guy. And so it was a testament that these dogs are so invaluable. He was fearless in this, but he also, not did he just save our lives, which we look at a lot of, he might protect the good guys, but he protected the bad guy in this situation. So that's one of the things that I was really most proud of. And I love to tell that story, because it just shows the value that the dogs have.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, and I'm sure there's a lot more stories out there like that, but they just don't get told, And you always you never see those highlight reels on social media, and but I'm glad you shared that. Now, speaking of social media, you blew up on TikTok, so let's talk about that. We got to talk about that. So how did that happen?
Man, I don't know. TikTok's such an interesting animal. I'll post things on TikTok that I think will do really good. Like I did one that was from Say Anything, right, where I'm holding a boombox over my head and it's playing Peter Gabriel. I'm like, that's awesome. It's creative. I put time into it. It's, it didn't do great. It's got like 20,000, which is still, it's a lot, but it didn't do great. But the ones where I just walk into the bathroom with Mattis on my shoulder and I'll say something, and those are the things that explode. So it's kind of learning that audience. But it's an anomaly. It's so interesting over there, and it's a lot of fun. It's a time sucker. You can sit there and watch all these videos over and over again. But yeah, we're having fun with it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't be on there like at nighttime because I mean, it will suck you in because there's so many just strange, interesting things.
Yeah.
It seems like the more strange, the more I guess up front they throw it in front of you. But man, I can stay in that thing and for hours if I get on there.
It's crazy.
So, so what are your goals? I mean, an officer on social media, like what's your goals? I mean, are you utilizing it to help educate, I guess your audience on, having a canine and yeah, I guess try to paint a different picture of
Yeah,
what maybe people think.
that's first and foremost, and what I've been doing since I got in here is basically trying to, a lot of it is influence the mindset of police officers everywhere. Because one of the things that, like I said, is the dog's an amazing bridge. A lot of times there's some departments that are out there and they treat the dog as only a tool, where he goes to work, he's in the back of the vehicle, he comes home, he goes into a kennel, and there's no interaction with anyone. And they say it's for liability reasons. But I see people in the private industry that have these amazing working dogs that also are incorporated in their families. And when you look at liability issues, that's like a taser that can go off at any time. If you have a dog that never interacts with the public, you don't know what he's going to do when he interacts with the public. So why not have a dog that's like Mattis, happy, social, confident? I can take him into any situation and he's going to do his job. He has more bites than any dog in the history of our department combined ever, because I can take him into any situation. I can literally have him in a group of preschoolers hanging on him and then tell him, I want you to go apprehend that guy, and he'll go apprehend that guy. So what's more of a liability? A dog that might attack all those kids, might come up the leash at me, or Mattis, who's been socialized to all these things and can do the job that way. So that's been one of my first goals, is to kind of show, hey, if we raise our level of standard in the police world and we try to socialize these dogs, maybe change the way that we select dogs a little bit, instead of having that jerk dog that might come up the leash on me, but having a dog that's clear-headed like he is, can do the job with excellence. And people will say, like, he's not a strong dog. Watch episode 4, or come and put on a bite suit and let's see if he's a strong dog. Like, I would challenge anyone, because I've seen him in action and I know the kind of dog he is. So that was the first thing. The plans here is I want to continue to make this like the best possible canine unit that I can. And then I'd also like to get out. I'm like, this year I'm going to start doing some conference speaking, and I like to do some traveling and training and speaking. So I also have a book that I'm writing.
Oh, hey, when that book comes out, we're definitely be your first client, man. We'd love to like purchase some books from you and hand them out to the audience as well. And so speaking of episode 4, what was the big thing that you learned from that, your biggest learning curve from that experience?
Well, my whole goal when I went into it was I love this dog so much, and he's an amazing dog. And like I said, with the whole, the way that I've trained him to be social and everything else, I wanted to show how great a dog he could be. Right. So I felt like, it sounds funny, but I felt an obligation to my dog for me not to suck, so he could be amazing. And so that was one of the things. The other thing is just how important the bond is, right? It's not just a lot of, people say best training advice. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Best training advice I ever got was actually from my dad. And he said, all that dog wants to do is make you happy. Now, there's a lot of people that will disagree with that. They're like, no, all that dog wants to do is earn its reward. And that is absolutely true. If you work in a kennel and you have lots of dogs that are coming through, or you're a vendor that trains dogs, whatever it is, and you have dogs that are coming through, yes, you have to find its motivation, and you have to tap into that motivation so that you can get the dog to do what you want to do. However, if you want to be a successful canine handler, you have got to build that bond. If you want to be a great pet owner that has an amazing dog, you have to build that bond. And that's where we are right now, is we're beyond just he's seeking his motivation. He's seeking to please alpha. So that's one of the things that I learned was invaluable in this course. Was I took a look at it when we were on set, and I said, this thing is set up because it had things on there that you couldn't practice, and you had to be in tune with your dog, and you had to be able to communicate with your dog in a way that he understood you, and you were going to be successful. So I'd say that was the biggest thing, is how important that bond is.
So before we go, what would you say is your goal before it's all said and done, before Mattis retires? And what's your goal with all this at the end of the day? You got a book coming out. You're on episode 4. You're in the finale. What's next?
Well, I'm not. They haven't said if I'm in the finale or not. So we hope that I'm in the finale. What's next is whatever brings. But I'd love to just continue to encourage people to be better, encourage people to be the best that they can possibly be. Like I said, I'm very competitive, but it's not like I'm trying to put other people down to show how great I am. I want to build as many people up as I possibly can and help them to be the best that they can personally be. So that's the goal with what I do, with hopefully the book, with hopefully the speaking engagements, with what we're doing here in Alpharetta with our K9 unit, is trying to bring out the best of individuals and build great team here, and encourage people, show that we're real people.
So what's the name of your book? Do you have a title for it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think a working title, what was it? I think it's a working title is like My Dog Mattis. So, and it'll go from there. It's a lot of his experiences and deployments and the things that he's taught me through handling him. So
awesome. So where can people find you? What are your social media handles? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Well, Instagram is kind of my main platform, even though it's not as big as my TikTok. Instagram's my main one, and that's ADPS_K9_Mattis. You can find us on there. Great way to interact, and you'll see a lot of our family and just what we do and the fun that we have in our training and stuff like that. And then TikTok, we're K9 Mattis, so you can look us up there as well. But yeah, that's kind of how we're out there.
Well, Sarge, man, I appreciate your time, man. This experience, I've learned so much, man. You inspired me.
Thanks,
I'm telling you, man, like I love what you're doing out there, and we look forward to your book. And when is the finale for the last episode? What
March 18th. March 18th. It's a Wednesday night. It's a 9 p.m. If you're local in our area, come check out the watch party with us, Mazzy's on Milton, and we'll have a blast.
Awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate your time, man. And man, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for reaching out to me, man.